Okay, here we are. I am Lawrence Yang. One of my identities is as a family doctor in Surrey. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Kwang Yang, also known as my father. Thanks, Dad, for joining me today. Do you have anything you'd like to say about who you are? Do you have another description of who you are?
Right, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. So I have been all the time practicing in Surrey for around at least 40 years. And I really enjoy the place. And I like to be in the family medicine because we can see the whole event of the disease from starting to the end, and also life from the starting of the life to the end of life. So I feel that family medicine is one of the most privileged type of profession that we are in.
I also see our position as being very, very privileged. And I think a lot of the privilege I experience is not only from being a family physician, but actually being your son, to be able to have that elevation really and the really jumpstart in life because of the hard work that you've put in. You said that you really like Surrey and you like family medicine. How did you end up in Surrey?
So at the time that in 1976, my wife, Catherine, wanted to move to BC from the cold, snowy country on the maritime, St. John, New Brunswick. So in one of the December, that about 40 or 40 plus years ago, we came over here for holiday. And over in St. John, New Brunswick, we have about 5 or 6 feet of the snow cover on the road and on the street. But here, not even one trace of snow. So we are so impressed with that. And we feel that this is a type of weather or climate that seems to be we are able to get used to.
Yeah, so Vancouver on the west coast of Canada is definitely one of the most beautiful climates in Canada, in all of Canada. We rarely have snow, like you said, and a lot of people have a preconception of Canada being always frozen, that we live maybe in igloos sometimes. Some of our friends down in the States or other countries might think that, but it really is beautiful. Now, how did you choose to vacation in Vancouver?
Because at that time, we have a friend that was practicing in the interior of BC. So we came all the way from the maritime to the west coast and to visit our friends in the interior. And that's why the started that we passed by Vancouver. And we like Vancouver right away because the weather is so nice and it's quite comfortable for us. And at that time, we have some idea that we like to practice in Vancouver. But luckily that we have a friend, a quite good friend that practicing in Surrey.
What was his name?
Dr. Sen Chu.
Dr. Sen Chu.
So right now he's practicing in Guildford. And we are now practicing in Whalley and Newton area of Surrey. And because he stayed here, and that's the only one friend that we know in the West Coast. And that's why we stop and look for a place to practice in Surrey.
And who was the one practicing in the interior at that time?
Dr. Charlie Law at the time.
Dr. Charles Law.
Yeah.
Some of our viewers may know of Dr. Charles Law. He had a busy practice at Oak Ridge Mall for a while.
Right. So when we met him in the interior, Ashcroft, by the way, that's the name, Ashcroft in the interior. And then we persuade him to come out to the Fraser Valley to practice. So at the time that we introduced him to Dr. Domsky. And Dr. Domsky at the time also retired age. So he took over Dr. Domsky's practice and started his practice in Surrey for a while. And then finally, he moved to Oak Ridge.
Mm. As you said, family practice is such a privilege. We get to follow people longitudinally from cradle to the grave. We get the most complete picture, potentially, of some of the causal factors that lead to somebody's disease, often the chronic diseases, which often have quite a bit of complexity in those diseases. What do you think are some of the things that have come across your mind when you've thought about wellness and you're thinking, if a human or a person, or if a patient did this change in their lives, they might actually be able to reduce some of their disease going forward? Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's quite a good question. And it's true. Because about the disease that develop in human beings, it has the cause and it has the starting stage. So if you know the whole story of that individual's health history, it definitely will help us to look for the problem and for the prevention of the problem and for the management of the problem and even to help to cure the problem. So the longitudinal history of an individual is so important. Mm-hmm. And we are the only privileged type of practice that we have the opportunity to know an individual's whole history. Mm-hmm. For example, all the other specialists, they don't have that opportunity to know the whole feature. And as we know, a disease is not only physical, but also mental. So when we want to know about a person's disease, we need to know only physical, but body and mind as a whole. That's always we have to keep in our mind.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. So what are some of the big opportunities that, let's say we have somebody who's watching right now, and let's say they're quite healthy and young, they're 20 years old or so. What is some general advice you would give them to avoid some of the pitfalls of chronic disease going forward?
So, with all of us, we already know that disease is not just happening suddenly in one day. Most of the disease take a long time to develop. So, when we see a young person, about 20-some, very healthy, we are so happy to know and to see them. We feel them, they are so lucky. But also we need to know the whole feature of it. How is about their life, how is about their stress level, how is about their habit, and how is their lifestyle. All this we need to know in order for us to be able to help that person. So we will not treat the person as only the face value, but we need to know the past, the present, and possible the future. Mm-hmm. That is the enjoyment to be a general practitioner, mm-hmm. that we have that kind of training in order to help the patient.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear from you is that your advice or your would differ. It would depend on that specific person's case. And so developing a relationship and asking about some of these stressors and different things in their lives is so critical to developing an action plan for wellness that actually works, that is very individual and tailored, right?
Yes, an individual, not only that person's individual, but that person's family history, the environment around them, and the way that they brought up. All this is also included into our care of an individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the environmental factors and some of the epigenetic factors, things like that. You know, it's you said many times that it's such a privilege to do what we do, and I think there are a lot of family doctors out there who are actually experiencing burnout. They actually are feeling like the complexity of what they deal with, combinations of mental health challenges and chronic disease, that it has been left really uncared for a long time, that many young physicians are inheriting a lot of complexity and addictions and all that stuff. They're feeling overwhelmed and burdened, actually. How are you able to maintain such a positive outlook that actually doing family medicine is a privilege? How are you able to maintain that resiliency and stuff like that?
Yeah, you bring up a point. For many of people in our profession, many of them burned out. Mm-hmm. And there's many reasons for this problem to occur. And the way is the government, the political system, put our general practice at the lowest class of the medical profession. And we got the lowest pay, and we need to take care the most from the beginning of the life to the end of the life, everything. As I already mentioned, the aspect of our care is so huge, but the reward in financial in return is the lowest on the scale. So I feel that in order for our general practice to be able to work better, the political system, the government have to know about that, and also to help about this profession to sustain and survive. And sustain in an equal way rather than put us on the lowest scale of our rewarding financially. The reason is that for all the specialist professional, they just need only to know one of the smallest scope of their specialty, but their financial in return is huge, many, many times more than the general practice. As we have a story that one of the eye specialists that can see about 1,000 patients in the 8 hours they working, the eye specialist. The reason why? Because they just see only the eyes. When people ask, how can you physically, mentally cope with it? And the doctor mentioned that how long it takes for you to recognize who is your mother. So when you are in only a small scope of specialists, that you can use the least time and effort, but to finish and to fulfill your work. General practice can never be that. General practice have to find out the cost of the problem, the long history, how it comes in orders. So only specialists can be in such a short period of time, but do the best for their own specialty. And they get in return the most financial reward. But for our general practice, as the government also, our college also demand us, whenever we see a patient, we need to know the whole history of the patient, their family history, their past illness history, their past surgery, their allergies, their family genetic history. All this we have to know about that patient. So the demand for us to do a good job is so much, though so huge, but come to the end that our financial reward is the lowest on the scale. So in order to improve our medical care, I hope that the government and our association have to know about this point, have to help our general practice to a kind of match or with our time, our effort span, and our financial reward have to be fair.
Okay. Yeah, I think you finished residency at Dalhousie University in Halifax, right? I think that was in 1969, wasn't it?
Yes, you're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was 51 years ago.
Yes, right.
So you've been in practice for 51 years, and it's interesting that what you're saying really has been echoing, and what you're saying echoes a lot of the sentiment in some of the family medicine community, that that family medicine is actually a very complex specialty. It's a specialty of longitudinal perspective on patients' lives, and that it should be elevated to such and appreciated as such. And of course, if we don't do that, the risk is that family medicine reduces its actual capacity to prevent the advancement of disease. And then patients will have more advanced disease. And then all of the primary care is kind of like the filter no longer is holding people up, or the safety net's no longer holding the community up. And the advanced disease lands in the hands of the specialists. And the specialists end up having to manage everything on their own. And then when that doesn't work, everybody goes to the emergency room. So the costs as we go to our system, as if family medicine is not supported, will just continue to skyrocket. And we're already seeing that with acute care usage. So I think you're right on point that we need to support family medicine more.
You're quite right, because all the specialists, for sure, we know they're expert in their field, but their care, we can say fragmented care, not a continuity care.
And it's not their fault. That's the way our system is designed.
For sure. Yeah. And that's no matter what, they still need to have our general practice to support them. And that is the key point here. We need to nourish our family medicine, our family practice, because we can say that family practice or family medicine is the mother of all specialty. If we can keep that in mind, and then gradually, many of our new graduated doctors will know how important, how useful that family medicine is, and then more doctors will be in the field. Because as a family doctor, in the family practice, we need to know a bit of everything. For sure, we are impossible to know the real or the all of everything, but we need to have some knowledge about a bit of everything.
I've witnessed, I can't remember most of my 10 years of life because it's just a long time ago. But I remember in the 90s, I remember that work was kind of stressful for you. I remember that maybe you might have been going through some burnout or something during that time. I'm not sure. But do you remember that time where there was actually quite a lot of stress in your life?
Oh, for sure. That when you really work hard, you devoted all your time, your life to the job, and for sure, your workload, your work volume, that naturally will be more than the average. When you're working more, and that's the time that everything, that the college, the medical service plan will wonder, why as a person, how can you physically and mentally cope with so much volume of work? But indeed, that I devoted all my time, all my life to work, and many of our colleagues, they have a balanced hours of work. And that's what we found out, that in this world, that when you really devoted 100% to your work, seems to be you could not and you cannot get fully appreciated from all aspects of different people, So still, as I noticed, you always promote balance in your work and life. I feel it's good. But when we, at the time that we do not have enough doctors and populations grow, and then you face to this huge volume of work, and then you have to do it because you cannot have any excuse. All the work right in front of your eyes, you have to finish your work day after day like that.
And you are one of the most diligent workers you are the most diligent worker I've ever known. You have a resilience and the ability to continue to work through stress like I've never known. And I've met many physicians in my life, as well as classmates and people in other industries. And you are the most hardworking person. And why do you think? And what I'm hearing from you is that the demand of the community is there. The community needs a family doctor, and there's not many family doctors around at that time. So you jump in there to fulfill that need. You got training from Canadian University, and you felt the need to give back to the community and to provide that. And you actually committed yourself, like you said, 100% to your job. And that's actually quite rare. It's actually quite rare that someone can commit 100% to a job, because for some people, a job is just a job. But I think for you, medicine is more than a job. Would you say that?
Yeah, not medicine, but family medicine is something that I really feel about it. Because I feel that as long as my health still allow, and as long as I still have the skill to differentiate the different aspect of a disease, I need to try my best, because I know that God give me my health, my life, I have to use to the fullest capacity I can. So that's why that at that time, I devoted 100% to my work and my family for sure. I know I neglect my family, but I have well arranged for the helpers to help my family. Almost every kids that we have one nanny specialist to take care of them. So that's why that I can put all my effort 100% to care for my patients.
Yeah, and that devotion, I think it's admired by every one of your patients, as well as all the colleagues. They often speak of you and your devotion and your really superhuman level of hard work. When I'm in the hospital these days, there's often people, Dr. Mirzana Jed, Dr. Dindo, they're always like, hey, say hi to your dad for me, because they remember the gargantuan workload that you would take on, that a lot of people are just wondering how you would do it, like you said, but you did delegate wonderful people to take care of us. I had a fantastic childhood. But you mentioned right there, and I think this is something that many physicians feel, there is a sense of, am I neglecting my family for my patients? And that's a very real thing. And then it causes one to question, what am I doing? Am I working for my family, or am I working for work? And like, I remember one time that you actually apologized to me, and this was you probably don't remember this, but I think I was maybe 18 or 19, and I was having panic attacks in university, and I actually called you. I was like, Dad, I don't know what's going on. My heart's beating really fast, and I'm scared. And I think it's 2:00 in the morning, and I was in the dorm at UBC, and you drove out at 2:00 in the morning to come and rescue me. And I sat in your car, and I remember you saying to me, did I put too much stress on you? And I think you said, I'm sorry I've been hard on you. You actually apologized to me because you've always wanted the best for me, and you pushed me all that time to work as almost try to get a little bit as hard as you worked. Do you remember that? Do you remember that event?
Oh yeah, I remember about that event. Yeah, right. And I feel so bad for you. You're so young, and you even did not have too much stress that you face as I did. But you're already developed in that situation. So I always feel that you're not strong enough, because to live out the best, you need to be tough. You need to be tough. So that's why in my family, when all of you at young age, I fully arrange for each one of them has one of the good nanny to take care, because I know mom is very, very busy. And I feel the ones that we have the people take care of you. You are in a good hand. You are safe. And that's why that I can devote it all my time in my work.
Mm. I think sometimes in some of those stressful times for you, sometimes you would bring some of that stress home. But again, the fact that you, who is doing so many things, so many wonderful things for the community, you actually came to me and you apologized to me. I'm just a kid, and that means a lot. It meant so much that you remembered it, and that you actually, like, you said it right now in a very frank way. I feel that I may have neglected my family or something, but you did it for the devotion, for a higher good.
Yeah, not me, but obviously I neglect. I did, neglect about all my kids and my wife in the family. But I know that on the other hand, I already fully arranged for people to take care for that, even though physically taken care, but not mentally. But about mentally, it's someone will be born out gradually, will be able to cope with the mental situation. But physically, for one's own safety and one's own need, you need to have the physical arrangement of time. And I did arrange for everything for that.
Yes, you absolutely did. I've never felt in danger or anything. And again, I had a fantastic, rich childhood, and I also, I'm still benefiting from your strategic care and your love and everything. So I really appreciate it. I think that so many physicians go through exactly what you went through, where the devotion to the work becomes so important because other people's lives are at stake, and that the family's safe. So there's not really, your skills are actually in the clinical world. And I think it's very common. And I think some people can learn from that experience. So I really appreciate you sharing honestly and vulnerably.
At that stage of life, what I know the most important is the safety for my family. In regards about the mental aspect, whether I did give enough of about the mental care for my family, for sure, obviously not. But because I know that my wife is a very nice religious person, so about love will never be deprived in our family. So that's why that I have my whole heart to work at my job. But whenever I'm free, and then I will for sure be at home and to be with my family.
I want you to know for certain that every one of us, of your four kids, know that you love and you care for us to the maximum amount. We all know that, and we've always known that. Even those days where you were having stress, we understood that you were having stress, but that we were always safe and always cared for. And we understand it's hard to go through, the things that you went through. You said you have to be tough. I remember growing up, you would make me do push-ups. You would say, 20 push-ups, standard. You always say standard push-ups. I think because you did some time in the Taiwanese military training, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you would also, you were very kind, and you got us a house with a pool, and then you would say 20 laps. Like, we have to do 20 laps. So, and there was so much training in our strength and toughness. And I appreciate that. I think it has helped me to be tougher and more resilient. And I know you worried for me back when I was 18 or 19, but I think I'm pretty tough now.
Sure. What I feel is that in the early life, you need to equip with good, strong physical health. And once you have a good, strong physical health, naturally, your mental health will be benefited. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all the time, I always pay attention to physical health, because if one has no physical health, no matter how good you will be to help for the mental part, impossible. So I still feel physical health is the most important, and naturally you will gain a good balanced mental health.
You've mentioned that family medicine is is really your passion. It's that ability to have longitudinal relationships is so important to you. And I've actually witnessed you many times kind of getting emotional about some of the memories that you have with some of the patients that you've seen cradle to the grave. And it's always been an enjoyable experience for me to witness you meet your patients at the supermarket, or you're driving, you stopped at a stoplight, and then your patient walks in front of the car and starts to wave at you. It's a beautiful sense of community, isn't it?
Oh, sure. So to be a person, to be associated with the community, the family doctor will be the most important role in the family, in the community family. Because specialists, as I mentioned, you take care only fragmented physical health problems. But as a family doctor, you take care of the whole thing. So you are the one well equipped to be involved in the community. And because of that, besides my busy medical practice, I also get involved in a lot of social community work, and also promote the public health awareness. So we hold many of the health fairs for the medical professionals, for the layman, for the public, through the newspaper, the TV, and the radio orders. So as a family doctor, not only about you work to see a patient, you still have so many different aspects that you can contribute to the community.
I remember you going to libraries and high schools, gymnasiums, giving talks about general health information. I remember you writing multiple books about dietary health or physical health, and many of them translated into 2 or 3 languages, because I think you speak Vietnamese, Cantonese, Mandarin, English, and a little bit of the other stuff too.
Oh yeah, others. Why? Your picture is frozen now. So seems to be the link is broken. So can we still talk?
Yeah, there's I think the internet.
So the internet is.
Okay, it should be back now.
Okay.
So I changed to a different network to be faster. Okay.
So that means, as I mentioned, to be a family doctor, not only that you're seeing patients, but you still have so many different things you can do.
You enjoy that breadth, the wide scope that you can do. Yeah, and you, in terms of the scope, one of your interests has been really helping out some of the patients who were stigmatized or marginalized. I remember there was one time where you were in the Parliament in Victoria. Was it in Victoria Parliament?
Victoria Parliament, and also Ottawa Parliament, both.
Oh.
East and West. So one of the rare things that can happen to an individual, that you can get to present in both of the parliament. And luckily that I get a standing ovation that they recognize about my work. In helping for all the marginalized. I promote for universal vaccination, especially hepatitis A and B vaccination. And I also promote that to enter into Canada as a landed immigrant, you cannot discriminate against race or different type of disease. And finally, that they recognize about my work in the Victoria Parliament and in the Ottawa Parliament, and they even treat me a free lunch in Ottawa Parliament. And nowadays, impossible to get a free lunch. So that is the very rare occasion that we can have a free lunch.
Yeah, I remember being pretty surprised that you were able to get the Therese Casgrain Medal of Honor almost.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And that is from Ottawa social department minister of social work department, social
Minister of Social Development, or it was an award for some of your work for destigmatizing certain racial groups or even disease states where there's stigma towards disease states, right?
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right. The stigma disease, such as possible, many of you do not know that if you are a young person has hepatitis B, you will be very difficult to get into a medical school to study medicine. And that is not very fair. And at the time, they did not look at hepatitis C. But nowadays, I hope that all this change. And because I devoted my time and my effort into public awareness and public education about diabetes, its care and prevention and management, I also get the most distinguished award from the Canadian Diabetes Association, Dr. Frederick Banton's award.
Oh, the Fred Banting Award, the guy who did the. Oh, wow.
The doctor that discovered insulin, you know, and that is one of the very privileged award from the Canadian Diabetes Association.
Yeah. So, is that the greatest achievement of your career? The Therese
No, this award not really achievement. It is just a kind that my work I understand to get recognized, such as the Queen 60 Jubilee Award. Also, I got one from the Queen of England. You know,
wow.
That just happened that they recognize about my work, but really it's not my achievement. I feel my achievement is my wholeheartedly devoted to family medicine. And I try my best to help whoever that want my help. So that's why up to the moment, I still try to do, if my life or my health allow, I still hope that I can continue on my work.
Yeah, you've always been really, really into helping everybody. You've always been, despite all of your accolades and work, you've always stayed very humble and very simple. You never get anything fancy. You always give to other people instead of, amassing things for yourself. You like the simple things. I know you love plants. You love geology. It's quite special that you have that breadth in your character, that you have very high ideals in terms of work ethic, in being resilient and being tough, and then achieving, and yet you just like the little things. You never do anything extravagant for yourself.
Yeah, I like Mars. I like the moon, because these are the things I like that I don't need to spend too much money on. So I would not like a very good, expensive car or whatever, Yeah.
Yes, you are very frugal, but yeah, I guess a whole planet of Mars is quite a big thing. And if you were ever given the chance, let's say Virgin Atlantic is selling a ride to Mars, and and instead of 6 months, it would only take 2 weeks. And instead of $20 million, it costs $200,000. Would you take that ride?
No, I may not. I I I have a concern. I may pay money to buy my motion sickness, and that is a terrible thing, you know. So just at the screen and look at and enjoy all the different things that I do not need to be physically to be there, but I can see it, I can know it, and I can almost feel about it.
Yes, a vicarious journey into space. You're so devoted to family medicine. How old were you when you knew you would do family medicine? When you were in residency, or was it earlier?
You can say about medicine. When I started to know that I want to be a medical doctor, at my father's deathbed, at the moment he died. So I promised him that, because at that time, I guess he get gastric cancer and nothing can cure. Even the French hospital that cannot cure, just only supportive treatment. So I told him that I will try to learn to be a medical doctor in order to help for those that get sick and those that are suffering. And because of that, I started to pay more attention on this part, and I have to study a little bit harder in order to be able to pass all my exams, to be able to achieve my medical practice, my medical profession.
Wow. So it was actually at your father's deathbed that you almost promised your father,
right,
I will learn to be a doctor, so maybe I can help people who are suffering like you, my own father.
Yes, right.
Wow.
Yeah. The problem is that if I talk to a live person, I can easily change my mind and do something else. But I promise to a dead person, I can never change.
I think you're recognizing spiritual reality right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but you know, about a promise, promise to a live person, I can call or talk to him or her that why I changed my mind.
Oh.
But to a dead person, I will never be able to explain why I can change my mind. So I have to be day after day study and to pursue for the goal.
So there's actually a really great sense of responsibility there, that you hold your word to such. Your word is so important, like your ability to fulfill and to be in integrity, to follow through on what you said. Your promises is so strong that you said that if you promise something to someone and then you don't have a chance to reconnect with them to explain why you changed course, you cannot change course. Like that's one of your driving values.
So even up to now, whatever my word I spoke out, I always would follow. If I could not follow, if I have a very good reason, I will talk to that person why I have to change.
That is a fantastic life lesson. And I think that if more people followed that commitment and responsibility, I think the world would be a much more fantastic place. Where do you think you learned that from? Or was it just came to you?
Just came to me, just learn from myself. So that's why in all the daily life, when in a group of people, I am the one that do not speak so much. I always the one listen. But when I speak, there are always some good reason there I speak. So I got feedback from my friends that this gentleman, he's very quiet. But once he open his mouth, and then you have to watch for like that. So I just go through my habit like that,
And how did you? I think you said that. How old were you when your father died again?
About 13 years old.
So 13, you made a promise, I'm going to be a doctor.
Yes, right.
And you said there was a French hospital that wasn't able to help your father. Where was this French hospital?
In Saigon, Vietnam.
And so 13 years old in Saigon, how do you make that promise happen? How do you actually fulfill it? What is this journey that you take?
Because of that promise. So I always, whenever I see any living creatures, I always have interest to know about their whole features, their also about their lifestyle, the way they live, and about their structure, their anatomy. Even I raised the chicken, the wife, it called silky chickens. Yeah, that is the type of chicken I like to raise. And I raise that chickens, and we feed them, and we gradually know about their way of living and others like that. So we can say that I start my interest in medicine is start from to take care about this silky chickens.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me stories of how you've enjoyed many different animals, and I've witnessed you dissect goldfish, turtles, who all these animals met unfortunate demises, and you've gotten frozen ones from the store and dissected them, and rabbits, and you've also been involved in different types of horticulture, ginseng growing, and a pineapple tree growing, banana tree growing. You've hybridized plants by grafting different branches from one plant to another, making new fruits and stuff. And I guess it all stemmed from this promise of I'm going to be a great medical biologic scientist.
Yeah, because medicine is the way that you like to research about life. You love life. So anything with life, we are interested in. Such as you mentioned about pineapple. We did grow pineapple in Surrey, and we harvest it, even though small, but it's so sweet. When it's ripened, the whole house with a nice smell of these pineapples.
You may have had the only pineapple plant in that bore fruit in British Columbia. Who knows? Probably not, but maybe so.
Yeah, we do a lot of things that in BC that rarely any people doing it, such as growing ginseng. The traditional growing ginseng is in the land, and you harvest at about 3 or 4 years. And this land will never be able to produce a second crop of good ginseng again. So because of that, so I went into tissue culture to grow ginseng.
A tissue culture, like cellular tissue.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tissue culture in the lab and grow it out. The taste is exactly as ginseng, but it's in a greenhouse. And the greenhouse you can use year after years. You don't need to change the land every 4 years. And that's wonderful. We already successful in that part. And also we raise about what kind of chicken, the big
the ostriches.
Yeah, ostrich.
I remember in high school you gave me an article like you said McDonald's is going to have McOstrich, and you told me because it is healthier, has lower cholesterol and higher protein content.
Yes, right. Oh yeah. So one of the very famous restaurant in Vancouver also asked me to help them to come our menu of ostrich menu. And ostrich is one of the also very interesting type of creature or animals. Yeah, so we are involved, and my interest is all different type of interest. But I feel as a medical doctor, you possibly will be able to equip with to explore all different aspects of life in different animals, different plants, or even geology. The stone also has its life, has its history of development of into the stones. So medicine is such a huge knowledge, a huge field, and is such a interesting field that I feel that many of us will like to be involved in.
And I mean, it sounds your curiosity took you into loving fossils as well. And I think last year you and I and Shavinder, Anteo, and some other people went to dig for fossils. Tell us about that experience. Did you enjoy that?
Oh yeah. So as I say, fossils also has its life, its stage of development. So stage of development, you can figure out it's also stage of life. And it's so interesting. When you look at the fossils, you can know the whole history. If possible, 1,000 or even million years. And you can know the level of the land. Different level is that different stage of history. It's such an abundant, interesting things that you need to explore.
Yeah, it's like traveling back in time to be able to see these animals.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Heidi Henderson, in case she watches this, for being our guide that time. We were near Cache Creek. Heidi Henderson. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're in Saigon 13. You decide to start studying life. How do you end up from Saigon and end up in Halifax?
Because at that time, 13, I went into the what we call middle school. I guess here we call junior high. Junior high, I went into an English school to study English because at that time, the French left Vietnam because the French lost in the war of Ban Mei Thuc. And the French surrender and retreat from Vietnam, and the American come in. And that's the time that I need to study English. And because I study English, I cannot go to France to study my university. The only thing I can is go to Taiwan. Well, at that time, Taiwan's nearby Vietnam, and their medical book is English medical book, even though we converse or we speak in Chinese, in Mandarin. But we can read in English book. And that's one of the easy way for my study. And that's what I study English and then go to Taiwan to study my medical school. And the medical school is a National Taiwan University medical school. It's one of the best medical school in Asia. And at the time, I guess they said it's second only to Tokyo medical school.
Oh, wow. So in Asia, it was the second best medical school
yes, right.
That you went to. Yeah. I mean, it was fantastic that you were able to go from there, finish your medical school, and do your internship and residency in Canada. And that's how our family ended up in Canada.
Yeah. Yes, right. And also lucky that in Canada, we have to take the LMCC exam, the FLEX exam, and luckily with our training in Taiwan, we sat for the exam, and fortunately we passed it.
You're very humble, but I know you work very hard. I remember as growing up, there were so many books in our house, and many of them, the books were so well used, especially the English dictionary, the English Chinese dictionaries. The pages all wrinkled because you study every word. I feel like you read the dictionary because you really focused. You recognized that your English was maybe one of your weak points earlier on because you didn't start learning until you were 14, you're a teenager.
Right.
You worked on your vocabulary very hard.
Yeah, we started to learn just by writing, by reading, but not by talking. So conversation is my weakest part.
You're doing very well. You're doing very well. Much better than average. So how did you decide, though, that family medicine was it for you? Is it because that you already had that general love for life of all type things, biology, plants, animals? So you knew you didn't want to focus on one thing? You didn't want to lock yourself down?
Yeah, because so far, I guess my personality is open to everything. So I love to learn everything. I like to learn everything. So if you still remember when you still very little, you're not going to medical school yet, I already mentioned to you that to be in a specialty, you only narrow your focus on that. But in a general practice, you need to know everything. And how nice for you open to everything rather than restrict to one thing. And that's one of the things you can feel about yourself. It open freely or restrict to one space. And obviously open freely is much enjoyable and fit to the natural life process. And that's why general practice is really fit for us as a human beings to pursue.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That resonates a lot with me. I also love to learn about everything as well. I think there are some genetic components in me that I inherited from you about generalism, about really appreciating and trying to learn from everything. And as you said, it's what a fantastic journey to be able to learn about everything. I noticed I think they're porcelain monkeys over your left shoulder. They look like one nurse and one doctor that's a monkey.
Yes, right. Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that. I feel like I've seen those since I was a little kid. What is that?
Yes, right. This was given by one of the nurse that I know when I started my practice. And the nurse gave it to me. And I feel so cute. And really that fit for my whole life of my profession. So that's why I always put it with me all the time. So I so appreciate for this gift, and I really treasure it.
That's beautiful. You're that's beautiful. Yeah. You mentioned before that you have a very religious wife. What attracted you to your wife? What attracted you to Mom right off the bat?
I guess the main thing is her kindness. Because I noticed that she's kind to everyone, not a selective kindness. Yeah, she's kindness to my own family's members, my brother, sister, my mothers. And not only that, she's kind also to her friends. So I feel that this is one of the rare kind of personality or of a kind of love that someone can possess. So I observe and I feel that. So no matter how she is, but she show all the kindness that a human can never be able to possess wholly, but seems to be she can possess that holy love to everyone.
I can't agree more. Like she does have superhuman kindness. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. How could you? Yeah, it's hard to fathom. So many of us have limits. We make boundaries around how much love we put out, but she does seem to possess these superhumanness. It's magical.
Because I've observed that she's so nice to all the other friends that we are not related, and she's so nice to my part of family members. So that's why when she's so kind of nice or kind to her own family members, I really appreciate, and I always encourage and support her. And this is one of the very precious type of personality that you can get.
I totally agree. You've made some fantastic choices in your life. I think,
Yeah.
and
but this is only after you know her. But I like and I love her at the first glance, at the first sight, because of her own beauty. I still have the pictures I can show you. Yeah. So.
Hey, it's courageous for someone to see a girl and, love at first sight, but also to take that step to ask her, to let her know that you appreciate her.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of courage. Did you always have that courage?
Oh, I'm born is very, you can say that very tough, as I always mention to you. And all my decisions have to be quick. I do not have patience to think over again and again. Because my experience, anything you want to make a decision, if it takes your time to think again and again, you may not get the best final decision. Your first instinct decision always seems, from my own experience, the right one. So everything that in my life I decide for that. Such as when you want to go to school, you want to choose this. After I heard that, I think I encourage you to go right away. I never ask you, you have to check about this, because I know the first instinct, whatever you described me, such as if I want to buy something, I buy, for example, a car. I like the car. I know that I need to have the car and I can afford the car. I buy right away, rather than I come here to check for the price, there to check the price. Only if the price within my affordable range, and that I can buy it. Make a quick decision right away. Mm-hmm. That's what the way.
So what I hear from you is that you have a big trust in your intuition, in your first instinct. You trust your instincts a lot. Where do you think you got that trust from? Because some people don't trust their instincts. They rather ask other people. How did you get that confidence? You said you were born that way. Is it really just born that way?
So this you bring it out about my have to be a second thought to why I am born in that way. I was born in that way. And I feel that for sure that the high above is something may instill me to have that wisdom. And I truly grateful for all my quick decision. So far, I feel luckily that I have no regret. And the reason why I can have to this way is that because the blessings from above. That's why I have to admit. And that answer will answer all the questions that you asked me.
And it's probably the right answer too.
Yeah.
What kind of to summarize one of the sayings, one of the sayings that I can kind of that seems to resonate with what you just shared is that in life you either win or you learn. Does that make sense? Like you can't really lose if you trust yourself and you work hard. You're either going to win or you learn. There's no losing. Does that
very
resonate
good,
with you?
Very good. So you're such a young age, but you have this type of thinking or this kind of philosophy that even 70, 80, 90 years old people cannot get that kind. So you're also born with some special blessings.
Thanks. Thank you very much. But actually, I heard it from Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor said that he's one of the fighters that he says that but it just when he said that a couple of years back, and and he probably heard it from somewhere else. But then what you just talked about, it seems like that is your life approach, that you don't live with fear. You don't spend a lot of time in fear. You spend a lot of time in trusting yourself, in commitment and responsibility. It seemed like
even though the word you just said, I did not really heard about that. But all my life up to now, I just waking up and seems to be what you said is right. Yeah, in life, that I always either win or learn.
Yeah.
You know?
It's fantastic. It's a very optimistic way to live life. And it doesn't spend a lot of time in fear. Do you remember a time in your life where you had a lot of fear? Or
you say a lot. I never have a lot, but sometimes fear during all the years going to school and to go through the exams, and especially about the face-to-face exam, the oral exams, all this, and for sure that you really have a fear, a stage fear like that, you know. But in real life, I always already well explained in myself that I face to this. I know it's a risk. If I can win it, fine. If I lose it, what will be? I already have the explanation. I also already have the bottom to support me. If I lose, what will be? I already well prepared for that. So in life, I never have any known fear that I cannot resolve or I cannot face to it.
Yeah, so there is definitely a confidence in you that's connected, I guess, through a lot of your struggles. I think maybe you didn't have, after age 13, you were on your own pretty much. You had to grow up really quickly and to be tough and to commit and to make your own life. And I think so much of what you've done is to, like you said, you didn't want to be restricted as a narrow focus specialist, but you wanted to be free and to explore the world and everything. It's quite lovely.
So you pointed out, and I know that, and all the time I'm thinking that since 13 years of age, I left my family. Before 13 years of age, I well taken care by the family because I was the youngest in the family. Every one of them older than me. They already saw about their kind of big brother or sister like that to take care of me. I have no responsibility in my own house for everything. Anything I want to, I ask, I will have it. That kind of spoiled kid. And at the 13 years of age, I left the house, went to live in some other environment, some other friend's house. And first time I lived in some other people's house. And at that time, I kind of born to be like that. I have to think out how to face to this kind of drastic change in my life. So I have to live with the people that to make the people appreciate about me and like me to live together. And for me to perform in that family in order to gain for that privilege. And finally, that I'm successful. They all like me to be with them. Even up to today, they still my good friend. I know how to how to join, engage, involve in their family, how to help them, how to help every little things, cleaning everything that I never do it in my own house because I was a king in the house. But here, I try to do everything and everyone liked me. And that is the time that I start that. And when I go into the university life, I learned to be more independent. I learned about leadership, how to be yourself, that you're able to convince, to face to this big group of people. And they are very brilliant. As you know, medical school, the students here, they selected from 100,000 of them into 100 students. All these top brilliant students or classmates. So how can I come out to be one of the important person of the leader in that? And I learned to be that. I learned stage on stage, and I got all the leadership. And when I come to Canada, even my English speaking is very poor. But I also know about my skill from since I left at years 13 that here. So I also learned to be how to give back to the community. Besides, I work hard to earn for my living, how to give back, how to fight for the underprivileged people, and how to get the society, the community into equal. So I get recognized by the social service department in Ottawa and by the Ottawa Parliament, by the Victoria Parliament, others, and even recognized by the Canadian Diabetes Association, by the Canadian Health Awareness Society, others.
Yeah, so
it's a learning process. As you mentioned already, I will never lose. I will win or either learn. Yeah. I learned through up to now. I'm still learning.
Yes, you are. I often see you're having conversations with people, sometimes other people will ignore someone, but you will actually listen. And I hear you ask questions and you'll take notes. You're still taking notes. You always carry a paper and a pen in your pocket. Sometimes you'll take notes. And I'm like, what is he writing about? But I know you're still trying to learn. You're still hungry and curious for information, which is just fantastic. You know, it's inspiring. And I wanted to say that, as you said, 13 years old in a protected environment, all of a sudden life's changed. Completely new environment, new people, and you're so young. And you had to try to learn socialization. You didn't really have socialization outside of the family where you weren't just a baby. And you were like, how can I bring value to this small community that I'm in? And it seems like your whole life has been, how do I contribute? How do I bring value to this community? And what an honor for you to be recognized on a country in a national stage like that. And that's very, very significant. It's a very rare accomplishment, and I'm proud of you, Dad. That's really fantastic.
So finally, still is that now I believe is that the blessings from the high up that guide me to do all this that I never know, I never learn, I never want to be, but naturally come up, and I feel that it is my mission to do it.
Yeah. I resonate with that too. That so many things that we have, we can't understand on a human level the reason of why we have these things or why things happen, but they happen. And if we can appreciate them like you are, for you to be able to appreciate where you are, I think that's a lovely, lovely thing. You mentioned earlier about medical students, like so many of them, and then they have to go through the gauntlet, and then they become whittled down to only 100 out of 100,000. You know, it's so difficult. I know that you were actually are you an assistant professor at University of British Columbia?
Associate. I'm promoted now. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Associate professor.
You're associate professor at the medical school at University of British Columbia.
Yes.
And I think you've been teaching at UBC for over 45, 50 years. 1980. Today is 2020. So for 40 years, you've been teaching. Yes. And every time I meet different residents or medical students around the hospital, they're like, oh, I rotated with your dad. Your dad taught me this. Because I think probably you've over 100 or 200 students have been through your clinic to learn.
Should be. Yeah, very likely.
Yeah, that is a huge contribution. One of the things that many physicians don't recognize is that when they welcome a medical student into the clinic, whether or not that we as the preceptors, as the teachers, whether or not we do things perfectly, it doesn't matter, because the student is learning. They learn to accept what they think is correct and they get to observe things that they can't even predict. So it's experiential absorption. And for you to open your door, to be transparent about your practice and to share your now 51 years of post-residency training, what a gift that is to the community. I know I'm your son, but I want to thank you for being so open to sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your gained experience that, as you said, you're privileged to have. You recognize that experience as a gift, and you're giving that gift to doctors who will go out through the province and continue to carry on your legacy of hopefully teaching and being more open. So thank you for that.
Yeah, because with my blessings that I'm still healthy enough and my brain is still functioning well, I still have all my skill in medicine. So I like to share this with many of my other people, many of my friends or students. And doesn't mean that whatever I teach will be the best. But for the students to know what's good, what's bad. The good one, they keep it, they preserve it. The bad one, they try to avoid. So to be a teacher doesn't mean that you have to be 100% to be right and good, but have to let the student know that as a teacher, many things that you can avoid not to do it, many things that you have to learn and to carry on. That's the most important to be a teacher.
Yeah. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough people willing to spend the time to give the next generation that experience. University of British Columbia is making call-outs right now to family doctors, begging them to teach. So thank you for your many years of service there. We're reaching the end of our time here. If someone wanted to connect with you or ask you a question, how can they reach you?
So easily, as I understand you have the podcast, can add through you. You can pass through me. Yeah, and that's so easy because the podcast, or even if you put this podcast also on a Canadian Health Awareness Society, and they can put question to you or to the Canadian Health Awareness Society.
Okay,
sounds
good.
For sure we'll receive it, we'll respond to it.
So do you have any closing words? Is there anybody you want to shout out? You want any thank yous you want to give out? Aside from me, of course. But,
yeah, still, every one of us have to know that either the beginning or the end of life or of your profession, always you get already the blessings from high above. So you always need to know that you're not alone. You have to choose the things that you feel right and to continue on to the last second of your life, to do the things you like, the things that you feel will benefit to all mankind.
Thank you very much. Kwang Yang, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.